Family, friends, and fans mourn the death of Aidan McLane, who died last week inside Aldine Park. They considered Aidan the caregiver of Rockford's punk scene, but family argue without health insurance, the musician couldn't get the mental health care they needed.
WIFR's Nathaniel Langley finds how loved ones hope Aidan's life inspires change.
Music is, I think, a universal language. It says a lot if you listen to it. Our way as musicians is sometimes the things that are harder to talk about come through with music.
Aidan McLane's loved ones say the musician possessed a heart of punk.
They let you know that they were angry at you. They let you know that they loved you.
It was strange because they would be completely fine in the summer, but then every winter we were committing Aidan.
Aidan died on January 19th at 28 years old.
The kid was so talented. He's traveled all over the place.
Jeremy McLane says his son's music career started when he was 5 years old. They connected an amp to a guitar.
And they've touched a lot of people, through music and through just being who they are.
The performer first hit the stage of Rockford's punk scene at 10 years old.
They helped inject kind of like a life plane of youthfulness into sometimes a subculture that's kind of dying out.
Aidan played in about 8 bands, including Karate Gossip, Led Zeppelin Reunion Tour, Cash Grab Heartthrobs, and Vatican Pity with Joseph Owens.
And I always had to have Aidan do the lyrics for me because he was always way more of a poet than I was. He was already clean. He had a job. There's one red flag, and it's systemic.
If there's better mental health things around this area, something that could have totally been avoided.
Aidan's family says the musician struggled with mental health and missed open enrollment at their new job.
My brother made too much to make state aid, which is fine, but they didn't make enough to have somewhere to live.
They claim Aidan was possibly walking to their motel when they died of hypothermia at Aldine Park.
Aidan leaves behind a lot of love.
There's some comfort for Sydney McLane, knowing her brother spent their last moments around nature.
Aidan loved people, loved animals, loved the outside.
What legacy do you hope Aidan leaves, not only in obviously just music, but in people's lives?
I hope this actually really makes a change for mental health.
Jeremy argues his son may still be here if barriers to healthcare erode.
I don't know, man. Mental health needs to be fixed in this country.
The McLane's music plays on, but without their usual vocalist, they sing a tune for change.
Even if you are worried about a medical bill and you need help, still go get help because you're gonna have bills regardless, but you might as well be alive while you have them.
In Rockford, Nathaniel Langley, WIFR News.
Jeremy plans a memorial show honoring Aidan when the weather warms up. Local brand Chai Teeth will dedicate a performance to the musician on February 15th in the Norwegian Lots. Doors open at 5 p.m. and proceeds benefit the McLanes.